Star Wars is Joshua E. Wagner, and with Thor Love and Thunder being a sixth film in Taika Waititi's director filmography, I'm going to be ranking all his films from my least favorite to my favorite. Let me know down in the comments below if you've seen all his films or how many you've seen, and let me know your preferences of how you would rank them according to your own subjective taste, because this isn't a right list, and we can all share a fun discussion down in the comments below about his humorous film. But coming in last place, we have Boy. This is a fun film that has an expression of childhood that is lighthearted in its own way, and while it hits all the right notes in certain times, overall this film doesn't always click with me. The film's narrative itself seems to prolong its story in a long-winded story that just doesn't quite click, and has its own meandering moments where it just goes on and on with certain moments that, well, certain moments click with me really well. Overall, with a lot of the same thing going over and over, and just a very slow dragging film, it just doesn't hold on to me tight all the way through. Coming in number 5, we have Thor Love and Thor. That just really takes all of his humor to the forefront of the film, but unfortunately for the narrative itself, it gets overwhelmed by the drama that it should be taking over. And while it shouldn't be overwhelmed by drama and darkness of the story just because that is what Gore the God Butcher brings to this narrative, overall, it ultimately feels like each joke that goes on over itself is trying to outbeat its own joke, and it's ultimately becoming a joke within itself. And while the film does have its lighthearted, fun moments that does work and ultimately exploits Thor's character, there's some character moments where it just doesn't feel like him, and that's where the jokes just take over and just don't allow it to be as funny anymore. And coming in number 4, we have Thor Ragnarok, a film I used to love a lot more, but over time, the MCU just doesn't handle this film so well, because again, it's another really dark story arc that is compiled with a lot of narrative and humor that just has a little bit of a healthier balanced diet than Thor Love and Thunder does, with its humor versus its dark moment, but ultimately it does have its right clicking moments, and bringing back Thor and Hulk to the big screen that ultimately delivers on many fronts, but not every front. And number 3, we have Eel vs. Shark, a sudden surprise from Taika Waititi's filmography. That's humorous, but it has a unique taste of being dry humor that doesn't always feel uniquely like him, and it almost has a Napoleon Dynamite type of feel to it, but a unique type of narrative with this romance between these two, Lily and this other guy, that just really works well. How they meet, the distractions that lead them to kind of separate in some parts, but ultimately, I'm not going to spoil it, just being such a great film with the humor that it goes about, and just being dark in some areas, but using the dry humor to really work wonders to make you feel awkward and dry for actually feeling like you want to laugh at it. And that's the whole point that this whole story is trying to express, and ultimately still expressing the right emotions. And coming in number 2, we had Jojo Rabbit, another comedy that's satirical and dark in its own way, just being this war film about Hitler, and Taika Waititi being Hitler himself in this film, and just having Jojo Rabbit being this younger child, and all the expression this film brings to the table, being such a unique and different war film that has its best moments and all its saddest moments, that is well balanced out between the good, the bad, and the ugly of the humor and drama, that I feel is its best film that balances it out. But that leads to my number 1 film of his, which is Hunt for the Wilder People, an excellent film from his filmography that I just adore for the humor that is so much more subtle and simple all throughout, that it feels more conversational, the natural aspects of this, and just this foster kid being adopted with this uncle and aunt, where the uncle is not too fond of him and just doesn't want to, and they end up going into the wilderness as end up seeing more of the plot when you watch the film, and I highly recommend it just for the nature of their chemistry on screen, what they do, and the actual humor that's balanced throughout, and just the adventure it brings is not always meant to be taken so seriously with what it's going for, but it does ultimately have that great mix of good and bad with the humor all throughout. And so that's just how I would rank all Taika Waititi's director filmography, from my least favorite to my favorite. And I'd love to hear your favorites down in comments below, how you would rank his films. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.